And with that, we'll toss it to our casters. Forecourt Jester, Tasty Bacon, take it away.
Thank you very much, Humanist, and hello everyone. We are getting underway for our third place match. LiberationX on the blue side, taking on Halcyon Hammer's Velocity on the red. I am Tasty Bacon. Alongside me is the always lovely Forecourt Jester.
Thank you, thank you.
And
Always like being called lovely. It's a really great way to start off a cast, Mr. Tasty Bacon. But these two teams, as Humanist and Rome were talking about, they both have their all-stars. They both have quite the skill set coming into this. Dienzio, in particular, looking at that Koshka in that jungle. And it is something to note, though. Dienzio and Aloha have been fairly, kind of skillful in both roles, both in the jungle, both in the lane. They've both done fantastic. It's not a Sky. I was really hoping to see a Sky, but Status Baked will bring us that action on his side.
Yeah, and that's one of the really nice things about this Halcyon Hammer's Velocity team is they have that flexibility to be able to put the Enzio and Aloha in those interchangeable roles, just depending on what their opponents are playing or what composition they want to run and things like that. It makes it so much more difficult for opponents to plan and strategize against them because for someone like T-Tigers who's up in this lane, obviously his individual skills are so immense that it probably doesn't really matter to him who he's up against. But, against most of the people, if you're trying to prepare for a team, you're trying to prepare against a play style of the opponent that you're planning on laning against. But you really can't do that against Halcyon Hammers because you have to prepare for two of them.
Vain's thinking of actually looking into that bush, decides against it at the very last moment, so Status Bake's going to be okay. You see E36. Not Marteau, as a note. Of course, he is going to be subbed into this one, but love the dash under the name. Makes it very easy, but at the same time, LBX E36 is going to be there with them today. Now, this is a comp that we've actually seen work very well in the past, the Ringo Sky, and it's been kind of supported by a lot of different roams in and about the place, but Status Baked, you can't quite look into that bush this early. Not yet. He might be the level 3, but when he finds that whole team, especially Dienzio, on that Koshka, he is going to get jumped fairly heavily, so they're going to bounce off each other. They're going to go back to a little bit of farming. It is kind of the same old deal here mid, but Aloha, well, alright, he does get farmed. T-Tigers to put a point on the board.
Yeah, that early damage from Ringo is just so immense, and unfortunately the Book of Eulogies wasn't able to provide enough health for Aloha to be able to survive that, and instead it is the first blood going over to LiberationX. And speaking of that substitute for LiberationX, this is something that they're not, it's no stranger to them, is using substitutes. At the autumn season finals, they were actually the team that used the most players, as Dienzio is going to get caught out in the back as LiberationX invades the jungle successfully. But yeah, LiberationX, they used the most players. I believe they used actually their full 6-man roster over the course of the tournament a couple months ago. And even in the finals, the match that they won to take home first place in North America, they actually subbed out some of their players in the middle of that match. So they are definitely a full squad of players, and they can't have this ability to just plug and play people in. It's similar to what Halcyon Hammers have with making it difficult to prepare against them, because they can just say, okay, you prepared against these individuals, we're just going to put someone else in instead.
And it is something that caught me a little bit off guard when I was first introduced to Vainglory as the teams just continue on with their farming ways. It's some of these guilds are less like guilds, more like families, and they're very supportive, they're very plentiful. As you said, 6-man roster coming to a 3v3 tournament seemed a little bit like overkill, but it is, just again, a big note towards the friendliness and kind of the awesomeness here of the Vainglory communities as they've set up very nicely here into now esports. So a little bit of an exchange there into the mid, but Aloha and crew, I mean, these guys have been the same three throughout this tournament. It might be the first time we see E36, but you don't know what's up his sleeve because of it.
Yeah, and with what you're talking about, the family and the community camaraderie, that is
the dead
a
Koshka
big thing. Yeah, the very dead Koshka. Just again, the aggressive invasions from LiberationX are just working out really well, and it's you have to figure as actually T-Tigers is now finding Veins on the backside for another kill. LiberationX just picking him up all over the map right now, but And a lot of it is the fact that Kashka wants to make plays early. That's literally what she is as a hero, is trying to make plays early. Aloha may have gone too aggressive there. The slow's coming out, and that is going to be a second kill of the game for T-Tigers, the 5th of the game for LiberationX.
Yeah, leaving Koshka by herself has been sort of the strategy that we've been seeing. Her speed and clear is absolutely phenomenal, especially still with the fact that 114, the jungle monsters do kind of hit very hard. Now you can see Dienzio, he's too far behind. He's actually now going to swap with Aloha. He's going to come into lane now and pick up some, well, much-needed farm at this point. 5 kills down, 2 of those deaths on your Koshka. He's really behind where he wants to be, because we've seen power items coming out, about the 6-minute mark before, but I just don't think he's going to be close to it at this point. So either way, status baked, he is level 6. Dienzio does have that Yummy Catnip Frenzy ready to go, but is this going to be enough to stop the death on Veins? And it is. The Yummy Catnip Frenzy seals the deal, and that's going to be the first kill now for Dienzio, and he is not done yet. He thinks about jumping T-Tigers, then realizes, well, that's probably a bad idea. E36 by himself might have been able to just finish him off. So still, point on the board. Aloha into the back, going to pick up those backs as well. Will he escape E36? That part I'm a little unsure of.
Yeah, it actually should be able to. Does have enough movement speed. Arden not quite fast enough, but that just goes to show, oh, never mind, he's going to run into T-Tigers, and he puts up a really good fight, and actually it's going to be Halcyon Hammers securing the kill with the merciless pursuit from Veins coming in for the save.
And all of a sudden, Halcyon Hammer's feeling a little bit better about that one. Dienzio got a little bit of farm. He now has at least another step towards that item that he's looking for. He picks up his own backs for what seems like the first time in an eternity. And now, let's see, with 300 gold or so, yep, there we go. He is now able to pick up into that Aftershock. So a little bit later than he wanted, as I said, about the 7-minute mark, but still, he's right back on track for his farming. And that's really where the big strategy comes here from Halcyon Hammers. They put a lot of emphasis on feeding Dienzio a lot of farm.
Yeah, and how important was it for Dienzio to go up into that lane and pick up that wave of farm that he did secure right before that first kill came through? It got him enough experience to hit that level 6 and get that Yummy Catnip Frenzy available, which is really why they were able to pick up that first kill without losing anything further. And should actually be pretty happy. Obviously they'll be looking at the scoreboard as well, and we'll know that Dienzio did pick up his first item around the same time as Status Bake did on that Sky. They both got their Frostburn for Sky, the Aftershock for Kashka. So both early game junglers are pretty even on pace, despite the fact that there was so much aggression coming out early from LiberationX.
Well, we've been trying and posturing and, well, soaking quite a bit of experience here for Veins in lane, but unfortunately it does not look like an opportunity will present itself to jump T-Tigers, so we're just going to be splitting back to a bit farming now. T-Tiger himself just emptied a good chunk of his wallet, picks up that Sorrow Blade, it goes right back to the lane. That Ringo is really on point as well. A lot of farm to his name as well. If you look at it, 91 to the 75 of Aloha, keeping in mind that Aloha did give up some of those last hits to help out Dienzio.
Yeah, they're making way down to the shop now because they do have enough gold to pick up a couple more tier 2s. Not quite enough for the Fountain of Renewal. Veins is going to need about 250 more gold for that. So he goes back up to the lane to try and pick that up with the Iron Guard contract from Aloha's farming. And that's going to be such a key item. Right now, Arden has one, but Catherine does not. So if a fight breaks out, you have to assume it's going to be in favor of LiberationX, assuming it's a 3-on-3. And Halcyon Hammers, they know this, which is why they don't exactly want to go walking down into that area. But the Hellfire Brew is going to come out. They're not going to do a whole lot, but it does force them back a little further as they try and set up this gold mine. They think better of it, though.
Well, it was on Veins. It wasn't exactly like a super important carry that the Hellfire did land on, and because it is, Veins, he's not going to be too worse for wear by the time it's all said and done. Now, there's not going to be a fight after it. 7 kills in what seemed like 7 minutes, and we kind of fallen off a little bit from there. But both teams are just posturing and looking and waiting, but more importantly, both are farming here as well. In terms of the cash, it's almost 2,000 lead from LiberationX. Those early kills did lead us into some early counter jungling, which is majority of what you're going to see in terms of the gold difference. Now, we have been last hitting up a good bit of Storm here as well. T-Target is 109, 110. Status Baked 58. Those numbers will beat their opponents, so farming just a little bit better, getting a few more extra kills. It's, not the world's biggest lead, but it's going to be faring good here for LiberationX early.
And there's finally the first tier 3 item for Aloha. It is going to be that Serpent's Mask to try and stick around in fights a little bit longer after having an inventory filled with tier 2 items for the most part. So we'll be hitting that little bit of a power spike. The Serpent's Mask isn't a huge power spike because it is mostly focused on staying alive in a fight as opposed to getting, extra burst damage that you typically think of when you think power spike or, massive survivability like a Fountain of Renewal. It's not quite on that level, but it does still help an immense amount, especially as we move later into the game.
T-Tigers is almost to one-shot status on the minions. He has been farming up very well. That Sora Blade doing him some good. And as you can see here, it's very close to that one-shot status. But with those crits, he's able to push up the lane. Now they're going to be looking for rotation. All three are here. Could be an attempt at the gold mine. They see Aloha up in that lane. But unfortunately, it's just a little bit too early for them. The minions do not last, so they're not going to be looking for that yet. Now perhaps a fight. Double flare goes out. We'll find him. Here comes the Hellfire as well as on Veins again. It is. That's not going to be enough to bring her down to any kind of danger zone, but now that's also a cooldown out of the pocket here, LiberationX. That gauntlet was so close, but no cigar, as they say. Now that's 2 of the ultimates out of this next fight.
And this could be a potentially good time for Halcyon Hammers to fight, knowing that those 2 ultimates aren't available, and there they go.
Yeah, Catnip Frenzy on T-Tigers, but he has that reflex block. He is going to be dropping low, not before he brings D'Enzio down low, but another Rose offensive keeps him out of the death from above, and that's going to be now a 2-4-0 cleanup. E36 is unfortunately going to go into where is his score? A 1-1-3. Well, so much for that joke. And he completes the ace.
Yeah, well, again, great awareness by Halcyon Hammers to recognize that there's 2 ultimates unavailable for this fight while we still have absolutely everything in our arsenal. So they immediately go and look for a fight. The Silence, the Blast Tremors from Veins, hit, I believe, all 3 members of LiberationX. So even if they wanted to try and counteract right away, they just didn't have the ability to. And the huge damage able to come down from the rest of the team. And just like that, Halcyon Hammers, they're right back in this game. They had started to fall behind. They were down by about 2,000 gold at one point. It's now 500. So right back into this one is this Halcyon Hammers team. And this is something we've seen from them multiple times where they have the ability to come back from a poor, not so much a poor start, but a start that doesn't go in their favor. They're able to come back from that. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for them to get fully back into the game, but right now at 13 minutes, this is absolutely anyone's game.
All right, so Aloha and Veins are tending the lane. The lane has actually pushed up a little bit, and you can see some health missing from the turret. It's not in a danger zone by any means, but the bushes have been fairly often up against Halcyon Hammers. But LiberationX, they're going to be sticking together. Status Baked is 12. Tigers is 11 as well. We got that gauntlet back online and ready to go. A Fountain of Renewal here as well. And, all right, Aloha, a little bit of damage. He's going to come down to about half. Has to use the Rose Offensive to get out of dodge. And in terms of a fight, I wouldn't expect to find one here from the Halcyon. But LiberationX, they're not really gunning for one either. Status Baked is still cleaning up his jungle. There's not really a big rush for the gold mine since it is recently emptied. So Aloha in that book, he's right back to fighting form.
Yeah, I would expect LiberationX to actually look for a fight relatively soon, because after that last fight that they lost, they went and bought infusions for both Ringo and Sky. And now I'm not sure if it was just bought as a way to say, okay, if they're going to look for a fight, we want to be as prepared as possible, or if it's them saying they're looking for a fight, but either way, they're going to get one.
Yeah, Blast Tremor into the Yummy Catnip Frenzy. Lots of stuns available and no gauntlet for this fight. D'Enzio is still on the front line. He will take down the Status Baked at the same time. Veins and Aloha not even scratched. The Ringo gets hunted down, and that will be a 3-4-0. The Blast Tremor for the Silence to stop out any of these reflexes was a really good way to start that one off. D'Enzio immediately jumped in, and, well, that was that, as they say. 8-5 from a 5-2 start. Now they've taken the gold lead to get in the gold miner. And that lane's pushing up very heavy as well with Aloha.
The ability of this Halcyon Hammers team to move and flow together, and I'm not sure which one of them is their shot caller or if it's just kind of everyone, whoever happens to see the opportunity makes the call for the fight, but they are just so on point. You saw it right there. Vains starts the Blast Tremor. As it's about to hit down, the Yummy Catnip Frenzy is already channeling so that there's just no opportunity to block that out. They're either going to manage to block the Blast Tremor, or they're going to get hit or they're going to be silenced. And either way, Yummy Catnip Frenzy is going to go through and is going to lock down their target. And 8-5 now in favor of Halcyon Hammers, along with that turret getting destroyed, means they now have a 1,600 gold lead.
Ooh.
There's finally going to be the Hellfire Brew onto Aloha, but expertly blocked by the, not reflex blocked, but
Rose offensive. Yep.
I mean, you can call it a reflex block because it is still reflexes.
His
that
invulnerability. Yeah, let's just put it that way, my good
yeah,
sir.
the ultimate is what blocked it. Still excellent reflexes there by Aloha to know exactly when he had to use that, because that's the other thing, is you have to use that ability while it's on the way. Actually gonna hold off on, nope, okay, never mind. I will get a chance to talk about this a little bit. That's one of the things I really love about good Blackfeather players, is that the Hellfire Brew, it has a travel time. It doesn't get blocked until it actually hits you, and the Rose Offensive, it makes you move as well. So you have to time it so perfectly, but there's gonna be a big fight here.
All right, so immediately the Sky is out of it. Looks like T-Tigers, he's going to get chased right under that turret. Blackfeather is not relenting. That's going to be the Vanguard, and, well, he is going to be prolonging this one. Who's taking out the turret? It is going to be Aloha, but does not look like it. Oh, one more shot. Potion, and, well, it wouldn't have mattered at the very end of it anyway. That's going to be another 3-0 kill. Ring around the turret, and the Aloha still lives right through. That's going to be a second turret perhaps here as well. Vains does make sure doesn't want to tank it out, but with these minions and that ace buff, they're right back to fighting form, and that is not only the ace, but 2-turret turnaround. And at 17 minutes in, I mean, they could go for Kraken. Doesn't feel like they're gonna. It's a little bit too late, I think, now. But,
Oh, yeah.
man, we haven't had a kill for LiberationX for a while now, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been all Halcyon Hammers after that initial early game. A couple of really nice invades from LiberationX that with the start, but ever since then, once those first tier 3 items started to come out, Halcyon Hammers have been absolutely on point. And it was all off of just capitalizing on that one situation where they knew that there were 2 ultimates down, and they had everything. That is where this game turned for Halcyon Hammers, was the fight that they took immediately after that situation. So again, it's that heads-up play that got them into this lead, and now they're sitting on a 4,000 gold lead, and with Kraken available and pretty much everything going in their favor.
Even with Sky and the reposition ability of the Surrey Strike, able to dance around a lot of these team fights, this 3-man melee rushdown has just been absolutely tearing them apart. Now, that's going to be a big stun on top of T-Tigers. No reflex block there. Status Baked is sort of deciding if he wants to fight or not. He's just going to be off to the sidelines. He watches as his teammate falls. Maybe he's thinking now, all right, we can get the Enzio Surrey Strike, and he will. He will be rewarded for his patience. E36 now has to decide, do we go 2v2? Status Baked, without that Koshka to rush down and lock down. Now Status Baked is trying to do his best to dance around as much as he can. Another Surrey Strike, but dies along the way. The death from above, unfortunately, just not nearly enough. And now Vains and Aloha going to be pushing back E36 as well. Still, it's finally a kill to LiberationX, but they still lose the fight 2-1.
They lose the fight 2-1, but they don't give up the ace. And that's a really important thing, because these minions are not going to have that extra ace buff. And if that had been an ace, it would have almost certainly been a crystal turret going down as well in favor of Halcyon Hammers. So getting that kill was really big for LiberationX, and that's going to give them just it buys a little bit more time. And that's really what they need right now. Koshka is a hero that we always talk about how strong her early game is and how hard she can snowball, and she has snowballed. Don't get me wrong, it's a very strong Koshka. It's going to be very difficult to deal with, especially with triple Fountain of Renewal. on the side of Halcyon Hammers. As long as they can activate these in succession and not like if I ever look down and see 55, 55, 55 across the board
Rip.
on those Fountain of Renewals, I'll be very upset. But you know, these guys obviously they've actually run multiple fountains before, and they're one of the few teams that I've praised a lot for their use of the Fountain of Renewals. And with 3 of them coming out here, not only does it give your team so much healing and allow you to have these fights be so extended, it also is just good shield for dealing with Status Baked on the sky. They start the Kraken, but instead they find a fight.
Yeah, the silence on top of Status Baked, it just goes straight down. There's nothing for it. Now, the reflex block will stomp out the Yummy Catnip Frenzy, but again, the 3-man melee, that is not what Ringo wants to deal with. The Kraken might be reset, but E36 won't be able to reset that ace, and that is going to be, again, another 3-0 for the Halcyon Hammers. They're saying, all right, we're good enough. We don't even need no Kraken. We can just push this down with minions. 2 turrets and 30 seconds to go. This looks like game for game number 1 as Halcyon Hammers take the lead in this best of 3.
Yeah, this is very likely, and by very likely, I mean almost certainly going to be game number 1. Status Baked will be back up, but with all 3 of them being in nearly full health and ace buff minions there, actually, T-Tigers is up too, but this is going to be such a difficult defend, and it will not happen. Halcyon Hammers taking game number 1, and aside from the early game where LiberationX looked really strong, they just looked to be in control from really about 7 to 8 minutes on. It was all Halcyon Hammers.
Dienzio bounces back from 0-2 to 11-3. Once he had that Yummy Catnip Frenzy, that one fight, and an aftershock for his reward after that, it just looked like a very different game. Who really cares about a 0-2 invade when you can just start deleting your opponents? A lot of good teamwork here as well. Vain's Dienzio really coordinating their silences and stuns, and as he said, Triple Fountain really did put a dent in the enemy burst. It was really overall just a good team effort here from the Halcyon Hammers, and this is one of the first times we've actually seen the Ringo Sky and X combo, whatever Rome insert here, actually not do well.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it did do well initially. It looked really strong for LiberationX early on, but one situation where they got kind of caught out, and I don't want to blame LiberationX for that because the gauntlet was so close. If that gauntlet had connected onto Kashka, they would have just continued that snowball so hard. But it was just that one situation, and it was more Halcyon Hammers capitalizing than it was a mistake from LiberationX there. I need to stress that as much as I can. The ability of Halcyon Hammers to capitalize on that situation and turn the game around is what really won it for them.
All right, so we're going to get the take of our analysts back in the lair of Rome and Humanist because we still have more games to come. So guys, what did you think?